welcome to another episode of Girlhood. Today I'm an ATL with mindset coach Shari Green, and she's going to share with you what exactly that means as well as her journey to healing herself. This is Shari Green.
Hi guys.
So can you please explain to us exactly what a mindset coach is and what you do?
Yeah. So a mindset coach is just simple as it sounds. Like it's working on your mindset. So, a lot of times you may be thinking to yourself, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. And so what we do is I work with you to help you to overcome those thoughts so that you can actually set some goals for yourselves, meet those goals, and actually have more confidence in who you are.
Okay, so we've chatted about your journey to healing as you help other women in their process of healing. So can you kind of start with what your life was like 10 years ago in comparison to now?
Who child? Okay, so if I think about the Shari 10 years ago, the word that comes up initially is hotness, because she just had no sense of self-worth.
Okay.
She was trying to be everything to all people, and so as a result of that, she was never really grounded in who she was. She was always looking to someone else to define what was pretty or what was good enough. And a lot of that came from my relationship growing up with my dad. I just didn't feel as though he really saw me. I didn't feel like he really loved me. I have Caribbean parents. Both of my parents are from Jamaica. And so growing up, it was very much, kids are to be seen, but not necessarily heard. And my dad's way of dealing with me was very strict, stern, and aggressive. So that really took a hit to my self-esteem, my self-worth, and I started looking for that acceptance in everything else around me. So I just was searching, and essentially running. Well, you know what? Let me not skip a very big part of my story. So my mom passed away when I was 21 from cancer. Growing up, I saw my parents have a very dysfunctional relationship. Not that it was physically abusive or anything like that, but just emotionally they were checked out from one another. And so having that as an example, my mom passing away from cancer, me kind of seeing her struggle behind the scenes as a wife and mother, when my mom passed away, it was I gotta get out of here. So it was I felt like I didn't have any reason to stay, because I felt like my dad was the person that was inflicting, this rejection on me. So I left, went and got my own apartment. I still remember, getting my first furniture set and jumping on the couch.
Do what you want to do.
Yes, I'm free, being so excited. I remember having ice cream the first morning I was there, because I was yes, I'm gonna live my life how I want to live it, whatever that means, right? But it was good, because that was the beginning of me learning a lot of really hard lessons, which was you cannot run away from your pain. You can't run away from, even rejection. You can suppress it for a while, but then it came back up. So how it came back up for me was in my dating. I was just dating, guy after guy, from one relationship to the next relationship. And honestly, I thought that's how it was supposed to be. I thought, well, if it doesn't work out with this one, or if I see red flags with this one, then I just cut it off and go to the next. And that was just practicing this pattern of non-commitment. And which is interesting, because relationships, which I know now in marriage, is all about commitment. So if you practice your whole life not being committed,
it's time to commit.
Right. Yeah. You kind of struggle with that emotionally. And so, I kind of went through those different seasons, up and downs with relationships. looking for them to feel me, looking for them to think I was, worth it.
All the things you didn't get from your dad.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, while all that was going on, I was still struggling in my relationship with my dad. I didn't really have one. We would talk here and there, but it was always a strained conversation or a strained, just experience between the two of us. And so it was one of those things where my dad was always there for me financially, but emotionally, he just wasn't.
Yes.
And so let's see. After, the whole up and down dating, I met one guy who ended up being my son's father. I got pregnant. And I have a son, Nicholas, who is now 8. And that was really when things started to shift for me. Because your children are like these little mirrors. They show you everything. They show you some of the best parts of yourself, but they also show you the areas that need some work.
Okay.
And I had struggled so much in relationships that I didn't really know how to have a good relationship with my son. So I was learning from scratch, what does a good relationship even look like? Which forced me to start reading parenting books and, just going to different parenting groups and all these different things that helped me to kind of cultivate okay, this is how parenting could look. So then I started being driven by the possibility of what could I actually create, in this motherhood that would be different than what I had. And so I remember my son was probably around 1. And at this time, I remember I used to drink wine. And I noticed for a week straight, I was drinking a bottle of wine every day. I was so stressed out. And I thought, because I had watched television shows and things growing up, that the stress reliever was going to come in the wine. So I thought, just take a sip and, relax and chill and you're going to feel better. And I remember I noticed a week I was doing the same thing and going through bottles and I was like, I'm not feeling better. I'm actually feeling worse. And so I decided to search for something that was going to bring me peace.
Okay.
And the thing that came up for me was yoga. So I was like, everybody that does yoga looks so peaceful. I'm going to do yoga.
Right. And
I found a free yoga class in the park. I went to the yoga class. I remember so excited. And the instructor said, hey, open up your arms and ask the universe for whatever you want.
Okay.
Now, I believed in God. I had always gone to church throughout my 20s when I started driving on my own, but it was after a night at the club. It was
it was a habitual thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It was something that I know to do.
Okay.
But I didn't know you could have a relationship with God.
Okay.
So at this point at, the yoga class, I open up my arms and I'm like, God, if you're real, if you really see me, if you really have a plan for my life, people are saying you do, I need you to show up. I need you to tell me that there's something more than what I know is my life. And it's not my life was horrible. I've, been able to do a lot of things in my life. I've done a lot of different career changes and I've always been ambitious, but I was not fulfilled.
It felt something was missing.
Something was still missing.
Yeah.
Going after the money, you get money and it's I still feel empty.
Yeah.
I still don't feel good enough.
You reach a goal and it's still there's something missing. I need something.
It's y'all lied to me.
Yeah.
Y'all told me this was going to give me something that it's not giving.
Yeah.
And so I remember saying that prayer. And I said specifically, send a group of women that will read the Bible with me.
Wow.
so that I can understand it. And right after that yoga class, a group of women came over to me, like, no lie, introduced themselves to me.
Wow.
I'm looking around because I'm like, this is not real. This isn't happening. And, you know, we started talking, and one of them said, hey, do you have a church home? Do you want to come to church with us? I was like, this is not real.
Right after you prayed that.
Right after I said that prayer. And, you know, I also mentioned that I had a son, and I asked them if they had like a children's church, and they were like, yeah, we have a great one, you should come. So I went that Sunday, and for the next year and a half, you know, those women and then so many other women, you know, came alongside me and studied the Bible with me.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was life-changing, because also in that time, God had told me, no more renting. I'm gonna buy you a house.
What?
Yeah, like no more renting. You're gonna buy a house. Now at that time, my credit was horrible.
Okay. Single mom?
Single mom.
Okay.
Have always co-parented, but
Okay.
have always run my own household on my own.
Okay.
I was like, God, it's not adding up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not adding up. There's no way. I have no money saved.
Mm-hmm.
How? And I remember the Holy Spirit, on the day I was moving out of my apartment, supposed to be moving into a new one, Holy Spirit said, no, go put it in storage. I called my brother. He helped me to pack up all my stuff in storage. I didn't have anywhere to go. Definitely wasn't going back to my dad's house. That wasn't even a thought.
Right.
So I put my stuff in storage, and so funny, one of my aunts called me. Literally, it's like God is so on time.
Mm-hmm.
One of my aunts called me and said, hey, how's your moving going? I mean, randomly. This is not like an aunt I talk to every day.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, God said he's going to buy me a house. And she was like, well, you know, I have an extra bedroom here. You can come stay with me. So that whole year and a half that I was studying the Bible, I was living with my aunt. I was able to save. I was able to work on my credit. I wrote a book.
Wow.
I mean, God did a lot of transformation in that time. And it was hard because I had to face some really hard feelings. And that didn't feel good.
Right.
You know, it just did not feel good. But I had this safety net around me and these women that they didn't judge me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day we did a study on sin.
Okay.
We all went around talking about our sin. I remember when it got to me, I was like, I'm not gonna tell these girls what I've been doing. Like, nah. And God was like, but why not? Are you all in?
Mm-hmm.
That day you asked me to give you this.
Yeah.
Did you really want it?
Mm-hmm.
And I started sharing, and I was just crying and crying and crying. But the freedom
Of
that
confession. Yes.
it was like, it didn't even matter at that point whether they judged me or not.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they weren't, it just was like, I'm free from this.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
And this is not who I am anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a season of my life.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so what actually happened from studying the Bible with them all that time, and then moving forward, you know, into the next chapter of my life, I grew in compassion for myself. So instead of defining myself as this hot mess, which I was, I realized you only knew what you knew.
That's good. That's good.
You know, and you're learning, you're growing, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and be proud of what you've been able to do. So yes, I did go on to buy my house. And it was funny because I was defying a lot of things that I had heard in my family just weren't going to be possible for a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had heard, like, you should just, you know, be nicer to Nicholas's dad. Maybe he'll marry you.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, like, planting these seeds that just further confirmed I wasn't worthy. You know, those underlying beliefs that I had been traveling with, and God interrupted all of that. He was like, lie, that's a lie, that's a lie too.
Yeah.
Let me show you who you really are.
That's good. That's good. He's faithful to do that.
Listen, he's like, no. Stop allowing the voices of other people who are still discovering themselves to define who you are. If they don't even know who they are, how could they possibly know who you are? And they don't even spend as much time with you.
Yeah, those are always the ones with the biggest opinions.
You know?
Yeah.
They don't know your inner thoughts. They don't know your inner fears. You know, they don't know that maybe you're aggressive because you're just afraid. You don't feel safe. So God interrupted all of that. And I got my house, and it was beautiful because it just built upon what kind of life do I want for me and my son. And that became my focus. I wanted him to see me in relationship with God, because I also realized that everything I had struggled, everything I had mimicked came from what I saw. I saw a lot of, you know, just do what you feel.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be disciplined emotionally. You know?
Yeah.
You don't have to communicate in a way that's respectful.
Just however you feeling in the moment, just let it rip.
And how you feel is how you feel, and it don't matter how the other person feels. You know, so I was mimicking a lot of that, and it was showing up in different ways in my life. And so here I am, God is freeing me from that. And I'm also cultivating this new environment for me and my son, which was so amazing. And I think with motherhood too, what I've learned is like giving myself that same compassion too, because I'm doing something totally new that I never even saw. You know? And give myself grace for the fact that I'm even courageous enough to try.
To try something new and different. Yeah.
And that I didn't quit.
That's good.
You know, because there's some days where, and this is the thing, it's the feelings. The feelings come from our thoughts. So if I'm feeling all these different things that like I'm believing, because I'm thinking them all the time, then it produces a feeling. We think the feeling is what produces everything else. But it's the thought that produces the feeling. So you have these really hard feelings, and it's because of your thought life, and then you start to believe what you think is associated with the feeling.
Right, it's all lies.
It's all lies. So like if I'm, you know, always feeling maybe anxious or whatever it is, then I may be tempted to label myself a certain way.
Right.
But maybe I'm just nervous when I'm around new people.
Gotcha.
Or maybe, you know, so for me, it's like I've learned to separate my feeling and my experience from who I am.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, who I am as a woman, like I'm God's daughter. I'm beautiful. I'm worthy. Not because I'm perfect, but because He made me. You know?
Yes.
And so when I'm having a tough feeling or whatever it is, it's like, this is just my current experience. And then I have to ask myself certain questions like, why am I feeling this way?
Right.
So, you know, that, and then also going to therapy has definitely helped.
Okay.
I don't believe that we're meant to navigate life alone.
We're in community.
Yeah.
That's the way that we were created.
Yeah, we're not meant to. And so whether it's therapy, coaching, or a group of girlfriends or whatever it is, you need to find somebody that can help you to just gain perspective. Because sometimes that's all it is.
Outside of your own head.
Yes.
You're like entangled in just in your own mind.
So you can say those thoughts out loud and somebody else can be like, okay, hold on. So you just said that you're not good enough.
Right.
and you're like, ooh, I did just, you know?
Yes.
So it's like sometimes we talk to ourselves so negatively, and if we were to talk to another human being like that, we probably wouldn't have friends.
Right. So why are we talking to ourselves?
Why are we talking to ourselves that way, you know? So, you know, moving up into where I am now since I've gotten married, me and my dad have reconciled our relationship.
Wow.
And
it started with the transformation and change within yourself.
Absolutely.
Not you trying to get him to change.
Nope.
And then there was restoration and healing within the relationship.
Yeah. Literally, I was serving in a church ministry. I was on the prayer team, and my dad randomly came to church one day.
Whoa.
Don't even know how. I didn't invite him. So I'm trying to figure out how, but he figured it out. Maybe he asked my brother or something, but he came in one day, and I remember him coming up to the altar, and he asked for prayer. He came up to me, and I'm thinking, oh Lord, you know, I'm nervous. I'm like, why does he want me to pray for him? What am I going to say? You know? And now, even though I had been going through my own like growth and stuff with God, I still was kind of struggling with that area with my dad still. Okay. And so he said, I just want a relationship with you. Oh! It was like everything I needed to hear. The little girl in me was finally embraced.
Wow.
In just that one sentence. And so it was funny because literally whatever that belief was that my dad did not love me, my dad did not care for me, could no longer be true. Because I heard him say out his own mouth that he wanted a relationship with me. And so we started working on it. And, you know, we would talk here and there, and I noticed his attitude and temper, you know, would go away. He would be open to hearing my thoughts, my opinions, and then open to actually respecting it.
Wow.
Like, I don't agree with you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it was like he allowed for it to be okay, and it was like, who is this guy?
So had something changed with him? Had he given his life to God in the process, or was just God doing something and you just not so sure about it?
I mean, honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea what was going on with him personally.
Right.
But I know that me just focusing on where God wanted me.
Right, because that's all we can do.
That's
we can't
all.
do anybody else's.
Yes.
Right.
That's all it was. And then also, I had to set boundaries.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes you can have a strained relationship with your parents, and you think because they're your parents that you owe them your attention and time. Because, you know, they're your parents and you feel like this obligation. But I think you have to ask yourself, where does that thought come from? A lot of times, you know, you feel guilty. Like, if I don't, you know, hang around them, or if I don't speak to them, then I'm not a good daughter, or I'm not a good son, or whatever it is. And for me, it was like, I was very clear that I was in a season of healing for myself and for my son. You know, so I had a bigger responsibility. My responsibility was like, God had given me a gift to parent and to train. And so I knew I needed to take some time for myself and not to be constantly triggered, you know, at the time. And it worked great because I also needed to gain a new perspective towards my dad.
Okay.
I had painted him as the villain, and, you know, I was missing out on the parts of him that were great. You know?
You're just like, shut him out.
Yeah, so, you know, when you're hurting, they really do say hurt people hurt other people. Yes. Because life is such a mirror that you see what is in you. So if you're always seeing the worst in other people, probably because you're always seeing the worst in yourself. You know?
Yes.
And so it was so perfect when he came back around because I was different.
Okay.
I was now open to having a conversation. I was now ready to stop running.
Okay.
You know, and I was open to being vulnerable enough to say, you've done some things that hurt me.
Okay.
I know I've done some things that probably have hurt you too. Like, you know, but I love you. I want a relationship with you. I want my son to have a relationship with you. And so it's just been, you know, through continuous conversations.
Okay. Conversations you wouldn't have been able to have prior to your healing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Continuous conversations. And now it's like, my dad is one of my biggest cheerleaders.
Wow.
He'll just send me texts and just be like, I think you're so awesome. I think you're so amazing. It's funny because the content that I put on social media to help other women, why does my dad watch them?
Oh, that's so cool. That's
Like,
so sweet.
he literally will watch them. Or, you know, I'm really into like self-development, you know, inspirational videos. I'll send them to him.
And so now they're encouraging him
Yes,
too.
so he will take the time to watch them.
Wow.
And then text me back maybe like a day later, like, that was really cool, and we'll talk about it. And I've grown to see what an amazing heart he really has.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's one of those things. I grew in compassion for myself, and then I was able to grow in compassion for him.
Right. And so now the healing that you took the time to do is able to help him in areas that you probably didn't even realize.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So it's been powerful, and honestly, had that not happened, I would not have been ready to even try marriage. Yeah.
And why is that?
Because, you know, like I said, everything is a mirror.
Right.
So if I would have still been carrying the narrative that I'm not lovable, my dad does not love me, I would not believe that my husband had the capacity to love me.
So you would constantly be shutting him out. It would be like
Rejection.
a push-pull kind of thing.
Rejection, rejection, rejection. And I mean, in marriage, it still comes back up.
Okay.
So sometimes we think that things can just like completely go away. Now, there are some things that do.
Right.
Like for me, I no longer drink.
Okay.
Not because like I hate wine, but it's just not helpful.
Right.
For me.
Right.
When I do drink, I think back to where I was. And, you know, like one day I went to a winery. I took my husband actually. And I was like, let me see if it's something I even still want to do, you know, just from time to time. It didn't do anything for me. It was just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. You
know?
don't need it. You're already full and fulfilled.
But at least I'm moving away from it with a healthy perspective.
Right.
I'm not running from it because I'm fearful that I'm going to drink a bottle every day. I know I'm not going to do that. It's just I've realized I don't need it anymore.
That's good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I think marriage is a whole nother thing in itself.
Okay.
Hallmark lied to you.
Let him know.
Lied to all of us, okay? It is not. I thought, I'm going to get married. My husband is just going to put rose petals all over the house every day.
Like on Instagram, because that's what the husbands do on there.
Right? Yeah. Okay. That's a curated moment.
Right. Right.
But he's just going to tell me how much he loves me every day and just how he's just so happy that he met me. And, you know, and not to say that my husband does not tell me that he loves me and that I'm amazing. He does. Like, you know, shout out to my husband. He does, but it is not like the movies portray it to be. That is not what it is. Marriage is truly this up and down, up and down. Sometimes you stay up for a while. Sometimes you stay low for a while. And it's being committed to the decision you made past the feeling.
Okay.
So I don't always feel like so happy.
Right.
No, I don't always feel that way.
Right.
But I'm still committed to the decision that I made to be with this man.
Okay.
So that means everything that comes with him. That means loving him and him loving me through our different seasons of growth.
Okay.
That means loving him even when he doesn't meet my expectations or I don't meet his.
Okay. Because love is a choice
Yeah.
and a feeling.
It's a daily choice.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, like we are almost 2 years in.
Okay.
And I've learned so much in a short time. And a lot of that has come from us experiencing 2 stillbirths.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those of us that may not know exactly what a stillbirth is, can you explain a little bit about what that means?
So I think stillbirth is like basically when your baby passes away before you're able to give birth. And it's not like the earlier stages, they generally call it a miscarriage.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so then stillbirth is when your baby has developed a lot more.
Okay.
And
so you see like an ultrasound.
Yes,
like okay.
yes. So the baby has started to form itself.
Okay.
Yeah, and so going through 2 of them, we had one in 2020, and then, a couple months later after, we thought, well, maybe we'll try again, and then we had one in January of this year.
Is there any explanation, or is it just kind of no one really knows why?
We've done all the testing.
Okay.
I mean, they've done autopsies. Nothing has come back. And I think for me personally, in both pregnancies, I felt like one more with my first pregnancy with my daughter Grace. I was experiencing a lot of stress. And primarily because at the time I was working as a teacher and I was around a lot, and I work with, at the time, special needs children that had, a variety of different needs. And just sometimes being in that environment and being pregnant, when you're dealing with kids that have different behavioral issues, it can be stressful. And you're trying to as best possible to help them to manage their emotions.
Okay.
So sometimes that's not a one-time fix. That's a process and a series of events, So I think the environment, I remember just feeling just very tired, very stressed. I wish I had listened to my body at that time, because physically I was feeling the effects of that stress also.
Okay.
And excuse me, I think with my second one, I think honestly I just hadn't given myself enough time to recover.
Okay.
I think for me now, my mind frame around it, and with asking God about it too, I think this season, like I said, I'm going into 2 years of marriage. I think God was saying not now.
Okay.
Is how I have interpreted it. I feel like God is saying, continue the work that you started.
Okay.
Continue working on your mind. Continue building. Continue to grow in just self-discipline and self-love, really. And so I think whenever we want more things, we have to understand that it requires oftentimes, a different version of ourselves. And so right now, I feel like God is saying, learn how to be a wife.
Okay.
Learn how to be a wife. Learn how to balance your wifehood with motherhood, with loving yourself.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that. It doesn't take away the pain, that I feel from time to time, but I think how I look at my loss is evolving.
Okay.
In its meaning. And so I'm using it now to really, just go deeper in my purpose, which I feel like is to share the love of God with everybody that, I meet, everybody that I feel God has called me to. And I can do that through sharing my story. I could do that through, what I do in my coaching is listening to women.
Okay.
Helping them to feel heard and seen, and helping them to understand that the things they experience, we all experience at different times, and they're not weird, and they're not broken,
Yes.
just because they face these very real life experiences, and that there is hope. God has already somehow connected us each to each other in different ways, to help us to get closer to him and to find healing. So it's, the work that I do now is so much more meaningful to me. I think of my mother. I think of the life I saw her live.
Okay.
I think of, had I known then the relationship you can have, through Jesus with God, had I known now the ways that we can work on our beliefs, we can work on our thoughts. Had I known then, how to create an environment that produces, emotional wellness, what would her life be like? Would she still be here? And that is what drives me. I think of, there's so many other women I know that have lost their mom to stress and, all of these different things, because especially as Black women, we are given this message that maybe we do need to be all things and be superwoman. Superwoman doesn't truly exist. Like, you're not superwoman because of how much you can endure. You're superwoman because of who God made you. You're a creative being. You could think something and then make it.
Yes.
That's why you're a superwoman.
Yes.
Because you're a problem solver, because you have all this love to give, But I think it's time that we start shifting what we call strength and understanding how important caring for ourselves is. It's everything. Caring for your mind. Your mind is always with you. People may leave you. You may, lose loved ones, but your mind is always with you. So, learning how to manage it and take care of it is important.
Yes, and I think it's so beautiful to just hear your journey, just seeing how you were in a place where you knew you were missing something, you didn't know what it was, and that point, that transition where you got to know God, where you got to know Jesus for yourself, and he became your strength. So you didn't have to rely on wine, you didn't have to rely on relationships. You even through the adversities and the struggles that you experienced, even more recent in life, you were able to persevere through those things clearly because of your reliance upon Christ.
Yeah.
His strength and his hope and his peace and the joy that is just so radiant on your face.
Yeah.
These are things that a lot of people could never even imagine going through, and I understand that it's completely difficult, and it's painful, and it's also beautiful in the sense that the Lord is able to carry you through even the worst pains, and you still are able to use that strength and that love and that joy and that peace that he gives you to bless and encourage other women that are going through the same things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's amazing.
Absolutely. God is the center of everything. Had I not had that experience in my 20s, seeing how committed he was to me, then when I faced my recent adversity, and as I will face more, I wouldn't have been able to say, this happened but God. Because there would be no evidence.
Right.
I've seen so much evidence.
There's no denying it.
There's nobody can convince me that God is not real, that he does not love me, and that he does not have a plan for my life. Nobody could convince me otherwise. And so I think everything that we each go through is just so that we can see who God really is. So that, the word says, walk by faith, not by your sight. That means that don't be fooled by what you're seeing, because God is still there.
Yes, and he's so much more real than everything we see.
He is realer than anything that we see, and the only reason why I'm still moving forward is because of him. Yesterday I was in my bathroom, I was having a moment, and I just was singing and I was worshiping. And I was loud. I know my husband was like, hey, she loud, you know? But he knows me, so he's, you know, he's okay with it. But my soul felt so refreshed. And I was just reminded, like, I need him.
Yes.
And I need him, and I have access to him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to, like, go to, you know, some tropical, like, paradise to find him.
Or the universe and
yeah,
the whatever.
Like
yeah.
right there, I can cry out to him.
Wherever we are, he's there.
And he just meets you.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. So you have a book. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I wrote a book that I released this year called Deal, Heal, Grow.
Okay.
30 Days to More Inner Peace. And I thought it was so important to write a book like this because I think so many people are struggling with their inner critic, those inner thoughts.
Okay.
And remember, I told you that the thoughts are what produces your feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then your feelings are what produce your behavior. So if you're constantly finding yourself experiencing these behaviors that are essentially self-sabotaging what you really want in your life,
Mm-hmm.
then we have to understand, how do I better manage my thoughts? And so it gives them a 30-day practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm walking you through each step throughout your day, helping you to navigate whatever those stressors were for that day, and helping you to reframe it.
Okay.
So essentially, it's helping you to build a new habit of when those thoughts come at you, what do I do with them?
Mm-hmm.
After reading the book, you're going to know exactly what to do. And you're going to produce a new habit of reframing your thoughts so that you can be free. Because the thoughts aren't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we judge ourselves. If I feel this way or if I think this way, I must be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe you're just human. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's the goal with the book, is to help more women become more aware with their mental health and have the tools to be able to navigate it in a way that, you know, really builds them up.
That's good. That's so needed right now.
It is so needed right now. Like,
Yeah.
literally, sometimes I'm using my own book
Oh, that's good.
and writing and going through it because you don't always know what life's going to bring your way.
You don't. Or the lies you're going to receive, or the lies that come up from your past that are still just replaying in
That
your
you didn't
head.
even know were still there, right?
Yes.
Because you suppress them. But the cool thing about how our mind and body works, it's almost like God knows when we're ready to deal with certain things.
That's good.
So he creates an environment for us to do just that,
Mm-hmm.
to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes we mistake those moments to go get busy. Oh, it's quiet.
And drown it out.
Yeah. Oh, I should be doing something right now. God is saying the only thing you should be doing is sitting with me,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can help you to see who you really are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just remembering we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to be tormented with our own thoughts or run from our own thoughts. He's there. He's personal. He's intimate. He will help us sift through the thoughts and put truth and peace in us instead. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with us on Girlhood. And it was
My
so nice.
pleasure.
Yes, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Girlhood. For more information about coaching and for her book, you can go to sharigreencoaching.com. See you next time. Next week on Girlhood.
Why I took a lot of that abuse, because I feel like, okay, where am I going to go from here? What am I going to do?
Please remember to subscribe and send this to someone that may be encouraged by it. See you next week.